A Sapphire Running Zone podcast.
Hi everyone, this is Tim from the Sapphire Running Zone. Welcome to another of our podcast series where we chat to people in the fundraising sector about their running and about their fantastic fundraising ideas. And we've had some great guests in the past, and we've got another one today. So we're joined by Sophie, and Sophie works for the Samaritans charity. So welcome, Sophie. Tell us all about your running journey to date, because you are very, very active in the running event space, aren't you?
Yes, we've run quite a few events over my time. So yeah, at the moment I'm an events fundraiser. So I work in third party events, which has been amazing. So get to steward a lot of amazing inspirational runners. But I started running about 2018, I think. I kind of got into running mainly for my own mental health. There was nothing quite like lacing up your trainers and going for a run. And yeah, I'd been supported by Samaritans personally. So I thought the best way to give back was to sign up to a 10K run. So what started as my first ever 10K run then turned into, over the year, running about 500 miles of events over time for Samaritans. So it was quite a challenge. I did a lot of 10Ks, a couple of 10 milers and a couple of half marathons. So yeah, over the years, it's been amazing. And I've always enjoyed fundraising for a charity that's been close to my heart.
Absolutely. So you're based in West Sussex. So have a lot of your races been in that part of the world, or have you travelled a little bit further afield?
Yep. So most of my ones have been Littlehampton, which is the hometown 10K. I've done Worthing, Bognor. I did quite a few in London. I did Royal Parks half marathon in London as well. And I did travel as far as Dublin to go and run my first ever half marathon, which was amazing. I would say I probably didn't train as much as I should have done because there was some hills around Phoenix Park. But yeah, that was the furthest I've ever travelled to so far was a Dublin half marathon. I did have Berlin half marathon on my agenda, but unfortunately the dreaded C word of COVID did stop that one. But one day I will get back out there.
Right. So you started with the 10K. What was that transition like from the 10K to the half marathon?
I would say quite a big transition, to be honest, because I think when you're doing if you've kind of just started running, I think, 5K is quite a nice one. You can do park runs to kind of get you up to that. 10K, I think, again, is fairly, if you haven't started running, is quite a nice one to get to, but almost doubling it was it's a lot more time training. You've got to think more about hydration, nutrition, everything like that comes into it. So I think it is quite a big transition for when you do go from a half marathon. So the 10-mile ones I did was quite nice. At the moment, I'd say I'm comfortably running like 10 miles. So it's a nice one, but I think it is a massive transition to go from 10K to half marathon.
Yeah. And what was the sort of average training week looking like for you then when you were training for a half?
I would probably do 2 5Ks during the week. And then at the weekend, I'd try and get out and just slowly build up my mileage. I'm sure I read somewhere, though, before I did Dublin half, as long as you can run 10 miles, you'll be fine with a half marathon. So I got about to mile 11 and a half at the half marathon in Dublin. And that's when I started to, you hit that wall. But the crowd kind of get you that last mile or so. But I did feel it the next day. But after you've done, I think, one half marathon, you can then, you've got it in the tank to do a few more.
Yeah. So just talk us through what you felt like when you were on the start line for your first half marathon then. Were you sort of confident? I mean, the fact you've run that far in training, you obviously knew mentally you were going to do it. And that's half the battle with these things, isn't it? Knowing, it's the mental battle, because a lot of people, when they do their first half or first full, they're obviously nervous. But if they've done that the longest long run of that kind of distance, like 20 miles for a marathon, you sort of physically know you're capable. It's sometimes that the mind plays tricks. But what were you feeling like on the start line?
Yeah, it was definitely, I always still get those pre-race nerves, which I think is always a really good thing. It's like the little butterflies you get, because there's nothing quite like, I'm a very solo runner. When I'm training, I'm very much, I put my headphones on, zone out for however long I'm going for. But at events, it's definitely that adrenaline at the start line. I was definitely excited because it was my first ever half marathon, but I was definitely nervous. You do get that kind of self-doubt that kicks in, like, can I do it? Will I have to stop? Am I going to get injured? All those kind of things definitely come into it. And I do remember feeling all that at the Dublin half marathon. And I think when I hit that wall, I then walked for a little bit. And for me, I was a bit disappointed in myself because it doesn't matter how you finish a run. But I did feel like, I should have trained just that little bit more and then I would have been able to do it. But once I'd crossed the finish line, it was like really emotional because I was literally like, I can't believe I've just completed like my first half marathon. So it always comes with pre-race nerves, I think. Will always, it doesn't matter, even if I'm still doing a 10K now, I still feel that like excitement, I think, / nervousness to get over the line.
Yeah, I think it's great to feel like that. I wouldn't want to be any other way, to be honest. So just tell us a little bit about Royal Parks half. How did you find that one?
Yeah, that was October time. So I think Dublin half was a little bit warmer, but Royal Parks was my second half marathon. So I was feeling a little bit more confident. I would say it was a lot bigger event. So when I got to London, there was like, so many more people, which you're suddenly thinking, oh my goodness, this feels like really overwhelming. You're all like, and there was a lot more support en route for Royal Parks, which is amazing. There was a whole park where all the charities were like cheering everybody on. There was live music, which so for about a mile or so, you really had that crowd pushing you when you need it about halfway. So yeah, that was absolutely like incredible to have the crowd. The crowd difference I would say I really felt in London compared to like maybe other events that I've done because they really do like carry you through. But yeah, it was another amazing half marathon, crossed the line, you're just absolutely buzzing. So yeah, it was really good.
And you see some great landmarks on that one, don't you? You've obviously got all the parks, but you've got Buckingham Palace and
Yeah.
lots more besides.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like it. I've done quite a few 10Ks or like events around London, and it always amazes me how it's so different when I think when the roads are closed and it's just filled with people cheering you on. It's such a different vibe in London. And I always find when you do go to London events, it's just everybody's just like being positive, like inspirational. It's a real like change from, I guess, when you just keep your head down and just get somewhere in London rather than running.
Yeah, I think, the whole issue of crowd support is so important for someone choosing their first big half marathon or their first marathon. Taking the crowd into account, I think, is so important. You've done races with not a lot of crowds and some with a lot, like that one. What would your take be on the whole crowd support thing?
I would say it's like 1,000,000% vital to get runners round because, like you said, you have to think some people are raising money. It might be their first 10K, their first like half marathon, first 10 miler. And to come to it is like, or even just to get that far to the start line, you've got to take into like how incredible that is. So to have people like, I always think that it's nice to get your name printed on your top. So if you're running for like a charity, just get your name printed on your top because when you're running through the crowds, they'll be like, go on, Sophie. And just hearing that is like, because I mean, when else do you get that in life? You get that positive like cheer like that. So I'd always recommend doing that. But I think the crowds really do carry you. And there can be parts. I did Brighton half marathon and the start and the finish few miles were like amazing. The crowds were there, but like you go out into the towards, halfway through and there's nobody there. And it can just be really deflating, especially when you are running one way and you have to come back and run the other way because you already know people are passing you, they're faster. So if you can get as like many cheerers as you can, it really does help to and it almost just takes your mind off, thinking, oh, does this hurt? Or just your head talking you out of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Did you have friends and family supporting you at Dublin and Royal Parks, or were you on your own?
I was on my own. So I did, because I think I went kind of into a bit of a running, fever, should we say? And I was just kind of signing up. And yeah, I traveled to Dublin. That was my first ever little holiday on my own as well. So it was amazing. And I wouldn't change it. I'm really glad I did it.
Well, COVID impacted most of us that like running events, but it probably impacted you more than anyone, didn't it? If you did all that during 2019 and then the dreaded 2020 came.
It really did, because I had a place at London Marathon, and that was going to be to kind of finish off. My fundraiser was to finish at London Marathon, but it got postponed. Then I think it changed to October, and I don't think I was in a flight. I think I deferred it, and unfortunately, I still haven't run London Marathon yet, but it is on my bucket list of events to do.
Good. It'll happen soon. It'll definitely
I hope
happen
so.
soon. Let's talk about the fundraising then, because obviously you've done a lot of events, and I know you've done a lot of fundraising. How did you start the fundraising, and how have you managed to continue having done so many races?
I kind of signed up to do one 10K just to because I have that real personal connection to Samaritans. So I think for my first 10K, there wasn't a target because I'd signed up to the event myself. I was an own place runner. So I didn't have a target in mind. I just thought if I could get maybe just a few donations, that would be really worthwhile. So to start with, family and friends donated. I think when you've got that personal connection and you're a first time runner, I think people do tend to donate. It became harder and harder as I kind of added more events, and I got like amazing stewardship from Samaritans. They kind of were encouraging me, this is amazing, keep going. So I had all that. So then I kind of was encouraged to sign up for more and more events. And then I made it I'm going to run 500 miles over a year. And that's when I think it got a little bit tricky, because I'd already gone to friends and family, and I'd asked for a marathon place with Samaritans, and they said, yes, like you can join the team, but you need to raise £2,500. So going from a 10K where I think I'd raised about 300 from that. So that's where it came harder of thinking, how do I get these donations? And so one thing that really worked well for me was doing something called Inspire a Mile. So I would go out on my social medias and say, I've got a 10-mile event coming up, donate some money and I'll have a loved one's name printed on the back of my top. So I did that a couple of times, and that worked amazing. People would be really generous, anything from like £5 to about £20-30 people would donate to have people printed on my top. So that was a really lovely way of doing it. And because it was COVID, people were doing a lot of virtual running events. So I hosted on Facebook a virtual running event, and I got some like medals pretty cheaply. I did have to invest some of my own money to get these medals printed up, but that was something that I did that worked incredibly well. I'm part of a running club called Lonely Goat, a virtual running club. So we've got a group on Facebook. So I'd posted out in there saying, come join my like virtual run, and people would donate £10 to enter this run. So that kind of really stacked up donations. And then it's thinking outside the box. It's like a cake sale. You're like, if you work in an office where people come to, which I know is more difficult, but if there is a time when everyone's going to be in the office, I would say get your colleagues, your friends to bake cakes. They'll give you anything from like £2 to £10 if they know you're doing running events, which does add up, especially if you've got some very good bakers in the office. I never did a quiz night, but that would have been on my agenda. If COVID hadn't hit, I was going to go to a venue and do a bit of a quiz to raise money. But it was definitely harder the more events I'd added on and the higher the target.
So you've pretty much covered a lot of different approaches then. You haven't just taken I'll set a page up and stick it on my social media pages and hope for the best. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people do, don't they? And even when they are raising £2,500 for a London entry, there's still too many people that think that is the only thing they have to do. It clearly isn't. And you've tried a lot of different approaches. How did you feel as time went on and you could sort of inevitably sense a little bit of not what do we call it? People not getting bored with you asking, but almost eye rolling as another request came out. How did you deal with that, and how did you deal with the days when you didn't get a great deal? Because there obviously are peaks and troughs, aren't there, in fundraising campaigns?
Yeah, there's absolutely peaks and troughs. I think I think it's almost, sometimes I would say if you are a runner, it's the hardest part is trying to get to your like fundraising. So when you've kind of exhausted people, like going, I'm doing another run, it's then thinking, okay, this isn't like working. I need to think of, can I reach out to my like local community? And it's almost like building those connections. Another thing I did was a bit of a raffle. It was like a virtual, I went to companies, and you can get a letter from the charity you're running for to say that I'm fundraising. And you'd say, you know, I'm running a London Marathon. Is there anything you can offer me, like a free ticket, a free item? And then I'd say local communities really responded well to that. I think instead of going out to really big businesses who are just kind of going to, I wouldn't say ignore your request, but your request is going to be lost because they're getting all the time asked. I'd say really work on your local community. Go to like businesses who are, you know, family owned or small businesses, because they are usually more than happy to help if they can. So it was kind of thinking, how can I get my fundraising target? And I always think if you're giving somebody something, they're more likely to sponsor you than rather just going, I'm doing a run, you know, please can I have £10? If they know that they're getting something back, or potentially getting something back, even if it is, I don't know, a cake, a quiz night, just doing something like that, which is time consuming because obviously you have to go out to these places, but it's definitely worthwhile because people do respond well to that.
Yeah, indeed. So how did you play it then? The first 10K was a one-off fundraising event, and then you grouped some of the other races together?
Yep. So it was literally just Lancing 10K. I thought we'll go 10K and start it. And then I just had a crazy idea of like, let's add more events to it. So my Just Giving page was literally like, it's a shame I can't find it. It was just a list of every event I'm doing. And then as I would get closer to the time, I'd kind of put updates on Just Giving, like this weekend, it's, you know, Little Hampton 10K. So I just kind of promote it that way. And with the bigger events with 10 miles and half marathons, I'd be like, you know, I've got this in 6 weeks. And that would be when I do the Inspire a Mile. If you want like a loved one's name printed on the back of my running top, and just be like, you know, I'll have them with me when I'm running. I always thought that was really good. But yes, my Just Giving page was all of the events I was doing grouped together. And I thought, and like I said, the finale was going to be London Marathon. So I think when people saw actually the level of miles I was doing, they were quite like, blimey, it's not just, you know, doing one event, which I think also helped as well, I guess.
Yeah, I think the great thing for you with that is that you had so many different stories to tell, didn't you? And I think this is one of the keys really when people are fundraising, is that they've got a lot of different things to talk about, even if it is, you know, I'm training for London Marathon, but I've just been out for this long run and the weather was terrible or it snowed. At least they've got something different to keep talking about, rather than please sponsor me. Please sponsor me. There's got to be a change in the story, or else people will get seriously bored. And what about the social media then? What worked really well for you and what not quite so much?
Yeah, I guess for me it was I guess sharing a bit of my story at the time. If people feel comfortable to say why they're fundraising for that charity, I think that is a really helpful thing to do if like people are comfortable doing that. And I guess because I did have different events upcoming, so when I had done one, I'd always like kind of take a picture with my medal, share that on social media and say like this run's completed. And then I could almost do milestones like, can you help me get to like £1,000 by the time I do this 10 mile? So I think because I had those different events, it was almost encouraging people to help me before I got to that event, or by the time I'd crossed the finish line, can I get to this amount? And I think it's just really like positively encouraging. Like if you do a run, just be like, oh, I've just been out for my longest run yet. And then that's the time to post your fundraising link. And if you are doing anything like park run, I'd say speak to like even park run organizers, get a shout out. It's just little things like that. It's always, if you are doing a run as well, I'd say contacting like your local media and see if like, would you run a bit of a story on social media? Again, if people feel comfortable to say why they're running for that, I think that really worked well. I did contact the local media and said, I'm doing this crazy running challenge. And they did post it in the newspaper and on social media channels. So again, that was something that worked really well. It's just getting exposure, I guess, and trying to stand out from everybody else that is fundraising as well.
Yeah, indeed. So was it mainly Facebook and Instagram that you used?
Yes, I guess back in the day it was a bit of Twitter as well, but I'm not on there anymore. But I did use that as a bit of a fundraising tool as well. And now I use LinkedIn as well, which I find is quite helpful because you get kind of a different network of people from like, Facebook and Instagram friends. But yeah, it was all those social media channels that I did use.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about LinkedIn, 'cause it's quite interesting because I'm doing quite a bit of fundraising on LinkedIn at the moment, and it's definitely seeing some results for that. How often, given that you had such a massive challenge there, how many times were you posting and putting the link in your post?
So you didn't want to like overly kind of, push it on people because if you do it so many times, then they're just going to scroll past you and be like, I've already seen that. So I'd also say potentially around the end of the month or start of the month when people have been paid is another little secret that I picked up on. So if you do it at the start of the month, then you kind of rest assured some people have been paid because you'll get people that will like, oh, I'll sponsor you on payday. And you either have to chase them down for that or you just remind them by putting it on social media. So that was a definite hack. And I'd just say, like, again, just posting pictures of you running on your long runs and just something that catches people's eyes rather than just putting your link. Even if like you went for a long run and it didn't quite work out, I would always kind of post about the runs that didn't work out as well as much as the ones that did, because I think you're also resonating with people that as much as you're just putting your trainers on and going outside, some days your body doesn't want to run as well as it does. Your head's like talking negatively more than it does other days. So not every run is going to be amazing. So it's kind of making out that, some days are tougher than others, which I'm always, more than open to speak about as well as the good days.
Yeah, that's a really, really important point, that's for sure. So what sort of great examples have you seen of fundraising from some of the people that you look after? You must have seen some amazing results, people raising silly amounts of money or doing spectacular events. Have you got a couple of highlights that you can think of people that have done really well?
There's a guy we have in Team Samaritans who's been running for us a long time, and he always dresses up as a green telephone. And he runs London Marathon every year, but he does it where he'll run and he'll like stop and talk to people. So he's got a really good like inspirational reputation of because London Marathon, I imagine, is hard. I've only ever been a spectator, but there's times where you think, can I actually complete this? And then you'll see this amazing green telephone like chatting to people en route. So I think he's completely inspirational because he doesn't just see it as I'm going to cross the line. It's more I'm going to talk to people, I'm going to check in, which really like goes with like my values and I guess Samaritans' values. So always find that really inspirational. And I guess a lot of people are um, they're using things like Vinted to kind of, I love this. You're selling things that you don't need in your house anymore, that you would ordinarily potentially just bin or just keep in your house when you don't need them. They're selling things like that to get donations, which I wish I'd known about all those years ago because that was an incredible idea. I'd say car boot sales are really another really good one, which I'm absolutely loving seeing. But I'm looking forward to seeing many more amazing fundraising ideas en route.
Yeah, I think the selling gear you don't need anymore is a really good one. I've seen a lot of examples of that. I think it makes a huge difference. Stuff that it's just getting in the way, isn't it? And you think, well, actually, maybe that could raise £100, £200. You just don't know. Sophie, that was really, really good. Very, very informative and great to hear about your running journey so far and your fundraising journey. What are your plans? I know you said you want to run London. When do you think that might happen? And if you can't do London, have you got something else on the list?
So I've got Great South Run, which is in October. So I'm doing that one. I've got a place with Samaritans. There's good perks of the job is that, I can be on the team. I've done that before and I absolutely love that one. And it's quite nice because it's flat. So I've got that one. And I'm hoping to do Cambridge Half Marathon next March. And I'll be at London Marathon. Obviously, I'll be cheering people on, which will be amazing as it's a 2-day event. I'm hoping I can run in London Marathon 2028 is the one I'm aiming for. So, yeah, I think I need to just kind of train towards London Marathon 2028 because I'm sure before I know it, it will be it'll be time. But yeah, I kind of do a lot of 10Ks in between. But the next big challenge is, I think for me, I haven't done a half marathon for years. So next year I want to get up to Cambridge and definitely do that half marathon. I've heard really good things about it. I've never done it, so I'm excited for that one.
Great stuff. Well, thanks so much for joining me and for sharing your experiences.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this Sapphire Running Zone podcast. Keep checking back as we have lots more podcasts coming soon.